So yesterday, U.S. Marines rehearsed amphibious invasions in the Caribbean as tensions with Venezuela continue to escalate. Meanwhile, Venezuela just deployed additional forces off their coast, saying they are increasing their operational readiness for a possible war with the United States. So today we're going to dig into those two new developments as well as 4 likely scenarios of what to watch for going forward. Starting out with this video released yesterday by U.S. Southern Command where they say, quote, United States Marines conducted an amphibious training exercise in the Caribbean where they are deployed in support of the Southcom mission, Department of War directed operations, and the President's priorities. Now I'm going to play this video and not talk through it. It's worth listening to a tone in the background. I think that's really important for the overall context. Here we go. So I don't know if you picked up on that, but tick-tock, right? Maybe Maduro's time is coming, and there's a lot of messaging involved here. It's not unusual, and a big takeaway we have to have from recent events is we cannot look at military exercises and assume that that means coming large-scale military action, because countries around the world have military exercises nonstop. U.S. Marines are carrying out exercises nonstop, many of them in the Southcom area of responsibility. So that's not in of itself unique, but we have to keep in mind that in recent days and weeks, multiple senior Venezuelan officials have been telling their citizenry that the United States military is coming, an invasion is about to happen. They have started arming their citizenry, standing up local militias loyal to Maduro to defend their homeland. Rifles and AKs, right? These are not manning air defense systems. They are trying to shoot enemy soldiers that are on their territory. So when the United States, amidst all of that, says, hey, take a look at our Marines coming ashore, I think this is in Puerto Rico, look at what they can do, there's a message being sent there. And I do want to note, Marines are pretty badass, right? I hate to be on the receiving end wherever those guys and gals end up landing. Now, turning to the Venezuelan exercise here, it looks like they're naming this one Operation Sovereign Caribbean, and it's taking place on an island, La Orchila, just off the coast of Venezuela. My apologies in the pronunciation there. A couple different reports here, starting with The Guardian. They say that this U.S. Southern Command announcement of this amphibious operation coincided with remarks from the Venezuelan Defense Minister Lopez, who confirmed the deployment of forces to this island in response to the U.S. naval presence. Quote, there will be deployments of air defense with armed drones, surveillance drones, underwater drones. We're going to implement electronic warfare actions, Lopez warned, accusing the United States of raising its threatening, vulgar voice. He said, quote, we are raising our operational readiness facing the Caribbean. We must elevate our operational readiness for a scenario of armed conflict at sea. So a major issue here, no matter what the intentions of the two sides are, is anytime you see two military forces kind of stand up and increase their operational posture, getting ready for the possibility of war, unfortunately, it increases the likelihood that that actually happens, right? So what we're seeing right now is the United States conducting some of these counter-narcotics operations, 3 strikes now that we know of off the coast of Venezuela. The United States says those were all in international waters. Venezuela has contested that, but Venezuela moving out to this island of theirs, I believe, is putting them that much closer to U.S. forces operating off their coastline. And now we have the defense minister talking about electronic warfare actions being utilized, again, inside of Venezuelan territory. No issue. That's just what countries do. I'm not really sure what their underwater drone program looks like. That, of course, has been a major thorn in the side of the Russian Navy in the Black Sea. Not clear if they have anything near those capabilities, but we do know there has been some cooperation between Venezuela, Iran, and Russia when it comes to these long-range loitering munitions or strike drones like the Shahed or Garand style. Continuing with the reporting here, they say Venezuela says it has begun 3 days of this military exercise called Sovereign Caribbean. The exercise was ordered by Maduro. They say public television, some of the clips we're showing here, shows images of amphibious vessels and warships deployed off the island where Venezuela has a military base. And it's worth pulling up real quick where this Orchila is actually located off the coast of Venezuela. right there. It looks like there's an airstrip there. Man, immediately makes me think of the island hopping in the Pacific, doesn't it? Why is this island important? Because it is an airstrip, big enough for an airstrip. Not necessarily the case in modern combat, but still. This is the specific base the Venezuelan military exercise is taking place on and around. It sounds like the armed forces have said the exercise will include 12 ships, 22 aircraft, and 20 small boats from their special naval militia. They say the island is close to the area where the U.S. intercepted and held a Venezuelan fishing vessel for 8 hours over the weekend. So that would have been the fourth that we know of. It fell between the first and the second strike, I believe, where the U.S. boarded a ship, searched it for drugs, ended up just being a fishing vessel, sent it back on its way. Venezuela contested that, saying it took place inside of Venezuela's territorial waters. The U.S. said, no, it didn't. So again, kind of contesting every story that comes out here. Some additional reporting here talking about the exercise taking place. It looks like Venezuela mobilized, this is according to SA Defensa. They say Venezuela mobilized their Capana-class landing ship tanks, LSTs, to deploy a detachment of Marine Corps personnel and military equipment to the island off the coast of Venezuela. They deployed VN-18 light tanks, VN-1 APCs, trucks, and others. Quote, this is the defense minister again, "We are prepared, we take action, individually or collectively for each flight. We know what they're doing. We know what their deployment is to the Caribbean Sea, with every intention of sowing war." So again, the context here, as we are seeing Venezuela push military forces forward as the United States continues the military buildup in the Caribbean, Venezuela is viewing this as a direct attack against their country. So while we sit here and say, no, this is counter-narcotics, we are just going after cartels, there is something to be said for how it is received on the other side. Venezuela has a vote. The Venezuelan military has a vote. And more we are seeing them posturing, preparing for a direct conflict with the United States. Now, with all of this happening, it's worth trying to understand what exactly is going to come next. What should we keep an eye out for? Before diving into that, though, a quick thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Outskill. Hey, I wanted to share with you all a pretty cool opportunity here to learn more about AI and how you can leverage these tools in your personal or professional life. I mean, AI has changed everything. It's not just helpful anymore, it's required. Now, personally, I use a variety of AI tools to help with the editing of these thumbnails that go up on YouTube, comparing different video titles to see what might outperform the other, and then, of course, diving into background research on a wide variety of subjects. And I don't think it's a secret that AI is really the fastest path forward if you want to boost your career, land a higher paying role, or even launch something of your own. And that's why I'm excited to share that Outskill, the sponsor of today's video, is hosting a 2-day AI Mastermind workshop this weekend. It runs Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern, and in just 16 hours, expert mentors will guide you through real-world AI skills. This isn't just about learning some new skills, but actually putting those new skills to use. I mean, past participants of this program have already built and launched more than 100 different AI products of their own. Now, normally this training costs $895, but I've partnered with Outskill to give away 1,000 seats for free. And here's what you'll get. Training with more than 10 different AI tools, how to automate workflows and build AI products without code, lifetime access to Outskill's AI community of professionals, a prompt Bible, roadmap to monetize AI, personalized toolkit builder, and more. Now, Outskill is rated 4.9 out of 5 on Trustpilot and already has more than 10 million people that have joined their program. And again, seats are limited, so scan the QR code on the screen or check out the link in the description and pinned comment below to secure your spot now. And of course, thank you again to Outskill for sponsoring today's video. All right, so some quick background here. A couple weeks ago, the United States increased the bounty. This came from the Attorney General Pam Bondi of the U.S. Department of Justice to $50 million for any information leading to the arrest of President Maduro. We then listed Trinidad as a foreign terror organization, or an FTO, opened up a wide range of capabilities we can go after that organization with. We've moved significant military resources to the Caribbean, talking 4 guided missile destroyers, a submarine, the Iwo Jima amphibious ready group, and 10 F-35s, actually. Kind of the most surprising of this whole batch. And this is part where, we're going to come back to this in a second, I feel like a lot of what we're doing in the Caribbean right now is flexing, trying to kind of posture to affect some sort of change with Venezuela without actually having to carry out direct military action. The reason I say that is a couple of pieces here, but the Department of War just published, before hitting record today, this picture saying, quote, F-35 Bravo Lightning II jets from the Marine Fighter Attack Squadron 225 are now in Puerto Rico. They are ready to take on cartels whose illicit activities have wrought devastating consequences on Americans for decades. America's war fighters are the best in the world, and our enemies know it. And we're seeing a lot of that kind of posturing, cheering this on in a couple different ways that, again, makes me think that there's a lot of messaging involved here that may end up being the most important aspect of this entire operation. Now, more than just staging assets in the South, we have seen at least 3 lethal strikes against cartel boats or alleged cartel boats in the last couple weeks. 2 of those have been captured, or the videos have been released by the administration. 1 of those we haven't seen any footage, but President Trump mentioned 3 have been carried out. All right, so digging into what to expect going forward here, I've got 3 scenarios, least likely to most likely, and then 1 honorable mention. Least likely is boots on the ground. You still have to consider it because I think that's something that we're kind of flexing and suggesting. It's also something that Venezuela, especially Maduro, is probably most concerned about. But I just don't think there's much of an appetite here in the United States to actually do that. We also don't really have the forces on station to carry out any sort of realistic landing and occupation. The Marines down there, again, that video, incredible, very lethal force. You need more than just the, 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit to actually land and take any sort of serious control of a portion of Venezuela, unless the government completely collapses. And if that's the case, all of a sudden we're committing troops to a reconstruction nation-building type setup. I just don't know that we want to dive back into that Iraq-Afghanistan situation quite yet. I think there are other things the government can do that would have much broader U.S. support. Now, sticking with this least likely scenario, boots on the ground, I think there's a slightly higher chance we see some sort of targeted raids to capture key cartel officials. That gets really messy really fast because the cartels and the government are so closely intertwined that it'd be very difficult to grab someone who is exclusively affiliated with the cartels and does not also have heavy ties to the Venezuelan government. And going into Venezuela and grabbing government officials, I don't think is a direction we really want to take this. Second here, strikes against cartel facilities in Venezuela, a little bit more likely. These exist. We know cartel facilities exist in Venezuela. We probably know where they are. And look, right now, there's really not any serious pushback against the United States taking out some of these cartel boats. So this is just one step removed, right? Instead of hitting the boats when they're out at sea, maybe look at where they're being loaded up. Maybe look at where some of that material, some of that product is being sourced from inside of Venezuela. It would be a holding area inside of Venezuela, mostly coming from Colombia to a location in Venezuela and then pushed out via boats. Just kind of go back up the chain a little bit, hit a cartel facility or 2. We have the resources off the coast, especially with some of those Tomahawk land attack missiles. I think that would probably still be pretty popular here in the United States. And the most likely one here is continued strikes against drug boats in the Caribbean. Look, it's still legally dubious, but we're really not seeing much pushback at all. Now, whether this materially impacts the flow of drugs into the United States is a different story, but it's hard to deny that when something goes boom, it's going to get attention. I don't really think this is sending a message necessarily to other cartels outside of Venezuela, but it's a quick way to show, like, you want to see action, here's action, that boat no longer exists, we blew it up. This is also something, talking about the flexing and the messaging, we're seeing U.S. officials kind of promote this and talk about, look, we're doing something, we're blowing up these boats that were loaded full of drugs. Here's Vice President Vance just yesterday talking about this exact scenario.
So I was talking to I said Secretary of Defense, but our new Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. And I was talking to Secretary Hegseth, and you know what he said? He said, you know what, Mr. Vice President, we don't see any of these drug boats coming into our country. They've completely stopped. And I said, I know why. I would stop too. Hell, I wouldn't go fishing right now in that area of the world. But that is what a military that is dedicated to its purpose and a commander-in-chief that is dedicated to the national good can do. If we just have our actual government fighting for the interests of Americans and nobody else, we can make this country safer, we can protect your jobs, we can make sure you've got the best wages anywhere in the world, and we can stop this terrible poison from coming into our country. We just needed a president who was willing to fight for you, and now we've got one.
All right, so the honorable mention that, of course, we have to bring up is U.S. military strikes against the Venezuelan military. I don't think this is in the cards, but I feel like we at least need to bring it up. The reason I say that is, like, yes, the military is heavily involved with the cartels in a lot of different ways. But if you look at how this is being viewed and presented on the world stage, right now it is a counter-narcotics operation. We're going after narco-trafficking cartels. That's the framing by the Trump administration. If we start hitting like Venezuelan military resources, even if they're heavily tied to the cartels, it changes that framing a lot. And all of a sudden we're attacking the military of another country. That just sounds like war. I don't think there's a lot of upside for our government doing that right now. I think there's a lot of other things we could do before getting to that point, before getting anywhere close to that point, that would be more effective in a lot of ways, but also much better received, not just here in the United States, but abroad as well. So either way, we are continuing to see an escalation between the two sides, pushing closer and closer to some sort of direct military conflict. Hopefully it stops shy of that, but we'll keep an eye on it. That's all we got for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.